should recruiters, what they should be doing right now to increase their business and to gain market control? So, hi, my name is Judy Collins, and I'm with Just Ask Judy. And I am very happy today to be talking with Henry Glickel, who is a longtime friend. He's a business owner, he's an executive recruiter, and the president of Recruiters Sales. He is executive recruiter of Sales Recruiters Inc. So, Henry, thank you for talking with me and telling me really about what shifts you see in the role that recruiters are playing right now to attract clients and to increase their business. So,
Well,
Henry,
oh my God, Judy, first of all, yeah, we've gone back many years, including being on a couple of boards together, and it's always a pleasure. And I'm glad you reached out to me to ask me my perspective, and I'm happy to share it with those in the industry. I think one of the most important things that you can do as an individual is kind of sharing your knowledge. So, and I take great pride in learning new things all the time, even though I've been in the business probably 29 years. So, but again, I want to thank you very much and uh, appreciate it. I've been um, Sales Recruiters is founded in 1985. I went to go work for them, and about a dozen years later, I ended up buying the firm a year later. And I've seen a lot of sales cycles, ups and downs. And, today, there is some new, how would I say it, new things that are coming into play that we've never seen before. And it's changing the landscape of recruiting and and talent acquisition. So, you know, you know, so what I'm seeing is kind of, and I'm just going to make some observations, and then we can kind of go back and forth per se. But I'm seeing a shift from an order taker to a market advisor. It's probably the most critical thing that you're doing. Order takers is when you're in engage, and we're an engaged search direct hire, not staffing, not temp, not contracting. We're really kind of executive search. And make a long story short, the best things that I will tell that's made us those that I've seen who are successful on the long term is that they're more than just an order taker. They're more of a market advisor. They're telling and they're really helping advise clients. Clients just don't want to see resumes. They want to see kind of clarity. They want to see bandwidths, what compensation reality is. A lot of companies are just going out there and using compensation that they've used for 15 years. And those have changed based on experience and needs. Also, many companies, I found my clients, they want to know about candidate availability. They could talk all they want about expansion, but if the candidate availability and the requirements they're looking for are not in congruence, they're not going to have a big enough candidate pool to potentially grab the right people or secure or recruit them. Also, they want to know what their competitors are doing, how they're hiring. And more important, another thing important is the speed to hire. Not only do you have to identify the talent, your companies have to understand what the speed to hire expectations are. And also, I found that recruiters act as talent advisors. They win trust and get repeat business. Probably 70% of my business is companies that I've done business with or I've reached out and provided advice to them at a time where they didn't have an opening, but when they had the opening, they reached out to us. So those are the overall things and in kind of a start mode that I'm seeing. So
and that repeat business, I mean, that is the best to me. It's a win-win for everybody. So, but how do you earn that respect really from your current clients? And also, how do you show new clients that you want to win their business?
Judy, you've known me a lot of years, and you'll see I'm very direct and blunt In fact, somebody once said to me, Henry, you're about as blunt as a ball peen hammer to the head. And my job with my clients is to help them win. And I think two things: you win with speed and transparency. Market Markets reward the recruiters who move fast and communicate early or clearly, I should say. Faster feedback loops, clear pay ranges upfront, or also flexible schedules and hiring models. Recruiters, it's not just, okay, it's 25% of base salary. They're looking for a lot more. And they're looking for projects and other flexible models. And we do that. We've worked on hourly, we've worked on source and present. We've worked on candidate identification for talent pools for clients or companies. We're looking for kind of also a frictionless candidate flow. I will tell you, companies who are putting up roadblocks between the recruiter and the hiring process are losing candidates more often than not. Removing the obstacles or the frictionless candidate flow is important. My brother said something really interesting, and he was talking about getting your children through college, and he said you're like a plow. Your job is to go ahead of them on the road and move all the obstacles. As recruiters, that's very relevant to us. Instead of removing the obstacles so that your kids can get through college easier without less headaches or issues or problems, the same thing can be extended to our clients, and that is removing the obstacles. And the clients need to be cognizant of why and what's to their advantage by having a frictionless candidate flow. And also, what we found is outdated, slow, opaque hiring practices. They're being left behind. And just because it was done 5 years ago. And let's think about this. 6 years ago, about this time, there wasn't a pandemic called COVID. Interviews were done not via Zoom or Teams or GoToMeeting. Those were used for meetings and things like that. But in reality, after that, look at how much has changed. How many hiring has been done because the market has changed. And anybody that's stuck in that old methodology is going to feel the pain of not securing the talent that they want. So
Really, COVID changed the whole landscaping of
it did.
employment, of recruiters, of candidates, really applying for jobs. So, Henry, how do you build that warm pipeline, to keep the process moving fast? Because I know speed is the name of the game.
Warm pipeline. Here's what most people think: warm pipelines are not one-off sourcing. Um, One-time sourcing limits growth. Sustainable recruiters must leverage their candidate communities. And in fact, Jason Burns from Connect and Cortivity really preaches about engaging in your candidate or client communities, keeping in touch with them and providing value and information that you're seen as a resource in expert subject matters. Probably as much as the ATS, CRM, and marketing automation is valuable, I think Jason's advice on engaged candidate and client communities is really important. Also, you need to you really redeploy proven candidates. You need to provide candidates value in helping them interview or being able to assess. Most candidates right now that are looking at making moves, I'm advising them don't. I'm guiding them that says what you think out there may not be out there, and the talented individuals is to say to put them in a proactive position, but don't make it a desperate position because desperation leads to bad choices on candidate side. But leveraging referrals and upskilling, and making your candidates better interviewers, making your clients better interviewers. I wrote a book called, what the heck is it? It's called, hold on, Recruiting Top Sales Talent. 10 years ago, I wrote a book on just recruiting top talent. This book is more related to recruiting top sales talent. I would encourage recruiters to write books, become expert in subject matters. And by the way, the book writing is it's not hard. It's just time staking. But it took a year and a half, but it was well worth it. But the most important thing out of it was I was teaching my clients and prospects how to do things and and upskilling. This is an example of upskilling your clients and how to recruit, even if they don't use you. Listen, they're going to use you, and if you can help them on the things that they don't need your help on, fine. In fact, sometimes somebody will buy the book, and I remember my biggest client was a $250,000 client. After they read the book, they called me up and they said, "I don't have time to do this. If I had time to do this, I would do it." But I read the book and I said, and they said, "I'm going to hire you to do it. What would it cost?" We made somewhere around 15 placements from them. And we worked on a project basis with them. And over a year, we placed, I think, 18 people and built a candidate pool of about 80 people for them for future searches. But this creates reoccurring revenue, not constant restart cycles. And that's the problem that you have is if you just have the same search or a different search each time, you don't have the ability to develop the candidate communities, and you don't have the ability to leverage those others. And yeah, they could say NPC, but if you're so busy NPCing candidates, how do you have time to really screen them through? So it is creating those candidate communities and upskilling, leveraging your referrals and upskilling your candidates and clients and prospects.
Really, that goes back to really you're a partner with your client. That you want to show them that you are the industry expert. So,
Absolutely.
so how do you lead those conversations to keep the flow going, to keep everything moving quickly?
As recruiters, and again, I don't know whether I'm high performing. I mean, if I compare myself to Pinnacle, there's no way. They're just incredible super recruiters. Listen, I think if I'm one of the top 25%, 20%, I'll take it, or even 10%, I would be elated. But I've been recruiting a lot, and we've placed a lot of people. And my team is good. I've got an excellent team of researchers and resourcers and support people and recruiting partners, and that works out well. But I think high performing recruiters lead client conversations with results because companies don't care that you're better. They want to know specifically what's your time to submit, what's your interview to offer ratio, what's your time to fill. Then you could talk about the quality of the short list. It's not how many people you're reaching out to, let's say 150 to 300 people to have 45 meaningful conversations to wind it down to 3 to 5 people. Okay. Now, if you think of it that way, um, meaningful conversations are really important. And that's where a simple scorecard in every client conversation reframes the recruiter as a business partner, not, a vendor. Every prospect that I talk to, I have something called a search summary. In the last 3 years, I've analyzed probably 40% or 30% of all my searches. And I look for different, and what I do is I write up a search summary, and it talks about the position, the industry, how many people I spoke to, how long did it take, whether there was a counteroffer, what were the problems, onboarding, what were the delays, what were the obstacles. And sometimes there was some bumps in the road, and I write those search summaries up and I share them with prospects because you're telling the prospects things that they need to consider that could be speed bumps in the process. But your ability to know where those speed bumps are as a recruiter to help guide them so they don't bottom out their car if they're going over the speed bumps is helpful. So again, a simple scorecard in every conversation kind of reframes the recruiter as a business partner, not just a vendor.
Well, I think the scorecard is a great idea. And I know I have been called a vendor too many times. And it's really, I want to make sure that relationship is, I go beyond just that vendor status. So how do you move that to the next level? I mean, how do you communicate that to your clients?
It's interesting because we're in a niche. Our niche is sales recruiting, and it's even nichier than that. There is certain venues and structures and things like that that we don't do. We don't do multi-level marketing, straight commission, banking, retail, finance, and other different arenas. So you can say we kind of even niche in a niche. So um, and by the way, this isn't just me. I'm telling you, I watched people like Greg Dorshing and others that have basically espoused. Yeah, it's not even just go niche; it's go deeper. It's you go even inside a niche. Generalists struggle with crowded markets. What I found is the specialists win by focus. Instead of sales, you move to like industrial automation sales in a specific geographic area. Or instead of healthcare, you move to medical device capital sales, potentially even to a region. Niche clarity improves speed, improves credibility, and pricing power. Because if you have, you're less likely to get pigeonholed into the discount thing. The generalist can get pushed into the discount. Your job is to say, I only specialize in this. Let's say I'm just using an example. Automation. I have a industrial automation venue that I'm working, and there's probably 80 companies that are in that. I work with 4 or 6 of those at most. Well, if somebody says, somebody's asking price, I go, I just need to work on 6 to 10. The others, I need them as suppliers. I don't need them as clients. And if they're not going to pay the fee, then that makes them very susceptible. So if you niche the niche, as long as you're in some really 2 or 3 year strong niches, my niche or my client avatar is companies under 500 employees. They usually don't have dedicated sales recruiters. They only want to hire a recruiter to go and do a certain job or a certain role, and because they're busy with the other things: succession planning, workplace compensation, workplace violence, uh, uh, benefits, um, corporate culture, employee engagement. They're so busy doing that they don't have time to recruit salespeople, so they make a decision to outsource that to me. Well, in doing so, and I know I'm kind of going off a little bit here, is they go to me because they're not looking for IT software developers. In fact, if they call me, I go, love to help you. I would strongly recommend going with these firms. If you stick to your knitting, stick to your niche, um, you know, if you do that and have a strong enough niche and you have a good reputation in a niche, you're more likely to succeed. I hope I answered your question.
Well, yes, you did, but it's like for maybe a generalist or somebody that has like a wide range that they are recruiting for how do they move that? How they move the level then to become an expert in one particular field?
Okay. If you, that's kind of step 2 in the process of getting more business. Core insight summary. In the industries that you've recruited in, what's the observations you're making about the industries, about the candidates, about the companies, about all these things that are happening within those specific verticals? Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, is um, you need to move from more transactional recruiting to advisory recruiting. Transactional is advisory is more like here, here's the number of people that are in this vertical. Here are what the top 20% make. And it could be a range, or it could say ranges go from this to this. I just had a position and the range was literally 50% higher from the low to the high on a base salary. And somebody was shocked, and I said, because it's different sides of the country, whether it's emerging, SMB, mid market, or enterprise, really what was different. So you're providing like that advisory recruiting because nothing's worse than going out and trying to recruit and not having enough information. It's like trying to go and say, I'm going to drive to California. I'm sorry, not going to drive. I need to get to I need to get to San Francisco. I'm like, okay, that's great. So without knowing how much is your budget, how long does it take to get there, all these different things. You could fly commercial, you could fly a corporate jet, you could technically get a limo driver, take you there. You could get on a bike, you can go on a bus, you could hop on the road and hitchhike. And somebody goes, oh, it's going to be cheaper if I hitchhike. Well, yeah, but how much food do you eat between now and then? Of course, I'm laughing. Like, let's say you're hitchhiking and it takes 3 weeks. Okay, well, if it's $400 to fly out there, you're going to eat more than $400 in the next 3 weeks in food. Wouldn't you just be better off just, flying out? And I don't mean it simplistically, but sometimes people reach over dollars to pick up dimes. And what I found is that, again, clients don't need more and let's get back to the topic, which is clients don't need more resumes. What they need is speed, transparency, market intelligence. Firms today that are growing are, one, fast to market, more transparent on pay and process, explaining to them like the transportation thing. Yes, you can hitchhike between here and California, but it's going to take you 3 weeks. Potentially, it's dangerous. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be hitchhiking out there today, But, you need a better understanding of the candidate behavior and movement. And your job is to educate your client or prospect on that.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to that next question is really, how does that next step look? How do you transition from, going through all that and learning it to really putting it into action? How do you do that?
Okay. I think what you're really asking is, what does good look like today? And number one, it's proactive market intelligence, candidates availability, compensation ranges, interview drop-off reasons. Why are candidates dropping off in their industry or in the market? Second is pipeline, first recruiting. Talent pools built before requisitions open. Clearly measure or value measurements. Show that your time to submit, interview to offer ratio, offer acceptance ratio. I let my clients know that candidates are going to get counteroffers. Now, don't get me wrong, over the years, I've learned from the industry giants, whether it's Bart Bruno or Danny Cahill or Jordan Rayboy, but basically counteroffers. What is it you do before an offer ever comes to basically stem the counteroffer, or know it's coming, but it's almost like you're bringing it up ahead of time. Painful, but if you don't bring it up, nothing's worse than not knowing. And that's where your offer acceptance rate increases, because it's counteroffers, but you're addressing it earlier. Well, if you put your head in the sand and you don't know what your offer acceptance ratio is, or how to increase it, or what the problems are that could occur, your job is to help educate your clients that you're going to let them walk on that landmine. because there's nothing worse than going through the whole process and losing somebody over a simple a counter offer. And by the way, it is happening more often than not because the engagement of candidates in the process with all this AI and AI interviewing, candidates aren't as committed. Companies aren't as committed. And when that happens, problems occur. There's no bonding that takes place in there. Your job is to help your client or prospect bond with the candidate that they want.
How do you get that expertise? What do you have to put into it then to gain that expertise and then to show your clients, I mean, this is what you do. This is your area of expertise.
First is research and industry support. The best recruiters move away from slow hiring flows, generic ads towards upfront pay info, mobile friendly flow, and proactive communications. That's what they look for. They work towards upfront pay info, and that and basically very forward, not reactive, but proactive communications. LinkedIn reports that hiring managers value recruiters who provide market insights, not just candidates. That's not me. That's LinkedIn. That's kind of my competition. LinkedIn's trying to get people running ads to compete against me, but it's different. And by the way, probably 3 of my last 5 clients ran LinkedIn ads and weren't successful. And then they came to me and were kind of dismayed at the thousands of dollars they paid. And I said, yes, LinkedIn is good for certain things, but the person you're looking for isn't responding to LinkedIn ads. They're on LinkedIn, but they're not responding, and you're not going to pick up a phone and try to recruit them. Most talent acquisition staff just doesn't want to do it. They don't have time. But also, SAI highlighted that top recruiting firms focus on like speed, specialization, and retention, not volume. Revenue comes from existing relationships and plus faster delivery, not more cold outreach.
Yeah.
That's what I have found.
You mentioned LinkedIn. How are you using LinkedIn and other technology? I mean, it's not so much on the recruiting side, but how are you using that technology?
Well, it's funny because we do use LinkedIn as recruiting. And let me explain. In 2005, I joined LinkedIn. I was one of the first million people. And recruiters and people I know said I was nuts. Are you kidding me? I go, if they're going to LinkedIn, okay, yes, my competitors will know, because it'll who I'm connected to, that it will show. But if I do a good enough job, good luck trying to steal my clients. If they can steal my clients, guess what? Good luck. Okay, because there's things I do for my clients that they're not. However, LinkedIn over the years is, for example, right now I'm at 29,600 connections, first level. You're limited to 30,000. I've been at 29,000 plus since 2013. I literally have to go in every quarter, delete out 400, add 400, just constantly cycling it in, right? So I'm always at 29,000. I got about another 30 some thousand followers. I don't know if it's different, whatever. And the company has like 15,000 followers. It's good. However, what I've realized is when I do a post, that's going out to those people. First of all, the prospects that are seeing that I'm getting opportunities. And keep in mind, I work on 3 to 5 jobs at a time. That's it. But most of my clients are engaged. Most, probably 90% of all my search and probably 90% of all my search revenue is engaged or project or committed. However, what we realize is in using LinkedIn is you're doing it as an outreach to candidates and prospects. It gives them a chance to see what's out there. And by the way, LinkedIn now is grabbing my post and or somebody is, and creating jobs from it. That's great. No problem. You want to do it? That's fine. But there's a market shift also. What you're seeing is recruiting is entering an AI race. Okay. Employers are automating screening and candidates are automating applications. Sounds good. There's some problems that are occurring from it. And this is a real good wedge that the recruiters can utilize. I think the recruiters who will win in 2026, and assuming you don't have a major recession, hopefully we'll get out of what's, as they said, the last 3 years have been in a funk. We've been steady, not great, but we've been steady. Um, however, um, however, in 2026, what I'm realizing is the following: you need to reduce friction, faster process, fewer steps. You need to increase proof, real outcomes, and polished resumes, okay, or polished profiles. In fact, I'm placing people without resumes now. They've got LinkedIn profiles. They're like, candidates are like, I don't have a resume. And by the way, I don't want them creating resume because then they're going to go out and look for other jobs. But if I have a LinkedIn profile, if I tell a client they're not in the market, they don't have a resume. Um, and I think you need to strengthen trust, whether it's clear expectations and transparency. Somebody goes, "Oh, I can do candidates for you in 3 days." No. I mean, yeah, you troll into your database for unemployed and unemployed people. Yeah, you can. But getting a hold of people sometimes takes a while, especially if they're salespeople. They're on the move a lot. And sometimes it takes a night. Listen, I literally was communicating with a candidate. They were on their way to the Packers and Bears game in Chicago. And the funniest thing is, we're transferring back and forth. And he ended up being, I thought he was a Bears fan because he was in Chicago going to the thing. I'm sorry, he was in, I'm sorry, Colorado for a Colorado position. My client was in Chicago, and he was obviously in Chicago going to the game. I thought he was a Bears fan. And I go, "Hey, go, good luck, go Bears." And he goes, "I'm a cheesehead." And I go, "Oh, no, like, okay, I screwed that one up." But he was fine with it. But in reality, when did I get a hold of him? On a Saturday night at 6 o'clock Eastern time. And I've been trying to get a hold of him for weeks, but that's when was able to get a hold of him. And we were texting, and we finally on Monday connected. So what you're going to find out is, expectations. Telling my clients that it takes time. It's not 3 days unless I have the candidate pool right then and there. Chances are it's still going to take me a week. And by the way, what we usually do is we lock down interview times. That's a Bar Bruno thing, by the way. Lock down interview times, specific times. That puts me under pressure and my sourcing team to help make sure I have the people, and then that allows, and that commits me to getting them in front, a sense of urgency. I can tell the candidates that too. So strengthening trust is you're establishing clear expectations and transparency. You're telling them this is not easy. Also, if your hiring process is slower in the market, you need to let your clients know that how it's going to hurt them. It's going to cost them top sales talent. Because if you're saying you're responsive as a hiring authority and as a company, and yet you demonstrate that you're not, that's reflected in your actions. So
On that, you had mentioned earlier about resumes and that the time that it's going to take to get somebody a good candidate in front of your client. If you're not getting more resumes and sending them out, then how are you growing? What's taking that place?
that's a good question. I find that recruiters don't grow by sending out more resumes. They grow by sending more or better insight. There was a recruiter that I know there was a recruiter saying, what an interesting thing they said: stop worrying about your send out to interview ratio. Was a certain ratio. And they're going, your job is whether it takes 4-1 or 8-1, it doesn't matter. What matters is the time frame. He was really alluding to the time frame that you got your client to do. Give them more choices. Don't restrict them. If you've got eight, I remember once I had 8 candidates for the job. I scheduled them all in. I got it down to 8. I couldn't get it down to 4. I could. I go, why play God? Just set them up. That's another recruiter. I think it's Danny's thing. Don't play God. Send them out, schedule, especially if the client gives you the interview time, schedule them and say to the client, Wouldn't you rather have more choices than less? Um, and don't play God. So, in reality, is you grow by giving them better insight. The candidates you're presenting provide the insight. Right now, when I do interviews, I've got a software that records and transcribes based on my questionnaire that we have for candidate screening for interviews. I send the recording, I send the transcript, and I send and the AI creates a summary notes, and it has the resume or the LinkedIn profile. Well, what we find out is if the clients don't want my short commercial 2 paragraphs, they want to look and see what the answers are to the questions and either read them or listen to them, and they can get a recording.
Yeah.
That's something that we do that other recruiters don't. And they're like, so they get, and they all get asked the same questions, and it gets then the chance to see the candidate or hear the candidate how they're interacting.
Yep.
Um,
Henry,
so
really,
so
really, to
so
me,
it's not just
that
sending out more resumes. I think speed, transparency, market intelligence will matter now than more than just volume.
right.
Clients don't need more resumes; they need clarity. They want to understand compensation expectations, compensation structure, compensation realities, candidate availability, career wounds. Why is a candidate looking? If it's about money, you're going to lose to a counter offer probably 40% of the time, if not more. And how is the market moving? Who is susceptible? What companies are having delivery issues, supply chain issues, management changes? Um, those are things that matter. That's what I have found.
Really, that's the future of recruiting. I think that you are moving in the right direction. And it's not so much what we have been doing for years and years, but really how are we moving forward and making it all work together. So, Henry, there's so much more to learn. I know how would recruiters or anybody that has any questions about all this insight, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, a couple things. Number one, I'm on LinkedIn, Henry Glickel. My email is Henry, Henry, at salesrecruiters.com. They're both plural. Phone number 603 894 0007. I'm extension 215. Just call me. If feel free and send me a LinkedIn invitation to connect. Um, you know, I am more than happy to share among other recruiters, insights. Listen, I don't want others to make the same stupid mistakes I made because of ego and things like that. I have learned so much from the trainers and other recruiters and who just they're just exceptionally talented people. And I learned from them by not making the stupid mistakes over and over again. I'd rather make the same mistake 3 to 5 times, not 300 to 500 times. So that's how they can communicate with me. I really, by the way, Judy, I want to thank you because you have provided a very informative venue. And I know there's going to be other topics that we're going to go over. This is probably another 3 or 4 sessions of new ideas. This is just the first one. And I want to thank you for providing the insight to people in the industry because, this is wonderful. I'm happy to do it for free. So,
Well, Henry, that's why everyone respects you. Because you're very honest, and I think your willingness to help others, and that's really what it's all about. So I want to thank you again, and I thank everyone for watching Just Ask Judy. Please like and subscribe to the channel and share with me really what your thoughts and your comments are. So I know then next time when I talk to Henry, we want to know what we want to talk about. So, anyway, thank you and see you next time on Just Ask Judy.